You want to be an outdoorsman? Get a knife. You got to embrace nature. Now, having a plan for if everything else goes wrong. So, you want to know how to be an outdoorsman. Well, let's start with step number one. Get out in nature. I'm here in Nakasork. We're going to head up to Haryale, or Mount going up, elevating, I don't know. Doesn't translate well into English. But we are in the Judean foothills. And as you can hear, I'm just at the trailhead because we're just off the road. And we're going to head on up, and I'm going to teach you how to become the outdoorsman that you want to be. And our first step is always getting out of civilization. Okay, there's no civilization for a little bit. And out in the nature. That's your first step. So, let's keep on going. Welcome to Big Man Outdoor Adventures. So, this is part of our first step as I slowly pan over the Judean foothills. Yes, there's a drone or a plane above me. Part of the game here. It's just the way it is. Other than that, it is total embrace of nature. So, if you want to be an outdoorsman, you got to embrace nature. You came out here with what you got. What is in your bag and what resources are at your disposal. Oh, and you got to get comfortable. That takes a minute sometimes. All right, at first, being out on your own in nature can be a little scary, especially if you're used to being like in a city and you're not used to being alone and all this other stuff. Takes a minute to get used to, but once you embrace it, it makes everything 10 times better. Now, I want to show you something as we go along our little tutorial. You want to see how far you can see. Okay, if you look way, way off behind me, you can actually more or less see all the way out to the cities along the Mediterranean. Got to be a good, I don't know, 30, 40 miles away. So you got a huge line of sight here from the top of the Judean foothills all the way out. So, let's continue learning how to be outdoorsmen. So I want to give you a little bit of my own eye view as I say, embrace nature. Now, other than me talking, you can't hear a whole lot because we've gotten out a little further. Okay? That's it. It is me on my lonesome. Oh, and by the way, pay attention to nature because it's not nice paved streets. It's rocks. Lots and lots of rocks, mud, slopes, and all other sorts of things that'll cause you to trip. But it's worth it, man. Part of embracing it is just taking in the beauty, taking in the sounds, taking in the serenity, learning not to be afraid. Okay, out here, there's really nothing other than weather to worry about. And in general, even where there are places with scary wild animals, not a whole lot to worry about. All right, in general, they want nothing to do with you. Now, if you happen to be somewhere with bears and you come across a mama bear, that's a sow, by the way, in technical terms, with cubs. Okay, that's the moment you don't get to embrace nature and get to grab bear spray. But other than that, not a whole lot, man. You really embrace the beauty and embrace the serenity. I'm sorry the camera's moving as I do this, but I really wanted you guys to get a chance to take it in as I see it and understand what it means. So, let's move on. Get a knife. And probably a lighter. And probably a ferro rod. Which are really metaphors for getting the right equipment. Now, that actually segues into our next segment about what activity you like doing in the outdoors the most. So what equipment you buy is going to be to do whatever you want, okay? If I walk into a Bass Pro Shops, because that is the funnest store on the planet, there is every outdoor activity under the sun there. All right, you got hiking, camping, those happen to be the things I like to do. Some people like hunting. Some people like trail running, cross-country skiing, fishing. I guess fishing isn't so bad. Rafting, kayaking. I tried kayaking once. Not for me. Got a little bit of sciatica going on. My tuchus hurt so badly during the whole thing. Your tuchus is your butt, for those who don't speak Yiddish. And, you know, and a plethora of others. And what you buy has to be right for that activity. For me, it's always going to be wearing the right layers of clothing, wearing hiking boots, because as you're about to see, sometimes the terrain is not so nice. And, you know, getting the right weather gear. And so wherever you go with that is your next step by choosing what activity you like to do the most. You see what I mean about those mid-top boots? Don't do that in just shoes. That's a bad idea. So, the next part of being an outdoorsman is learning your limits. For me, it's going to be whether and what terrain gets to be too much. Now, this is a strenuous trail, but today it's not raining and it's dried up a little bit from the last one, so we can actually do it. If this were raining, no way, dude. All these rock faces that you're going over, you'd have to put a pillow on your butt to do it. So you got to learn your limits, all right? This goes beyond like, oh, it's a rainy day, I don't want to go to the park. No. If it's raining and cold out here, you know, it could cost you your life potentially. So you got to learn your limits, and you got to learn when to go and when not to go. Did I mention that it's totally worth it? I feel angelic, man. Check this out. This is why it's worth it. All right, how is always one question. There's never a question as to why. This is it, man. This is what it's all about. And it's why you should be an outdoorsman. The serenity is unmatched. Now let's continue figuring out how to do that. So, if you want to be an outdoorsman, you got to practice and you got to learn. Now, obviously there are all sorts of courses you can take and things online, but you also got to learn as you go. And yes, you should look up stuff. And yes, you should watch a whole bunch of different people and a whole bunch of different resources and find the common things, because there are a lot of myths. But I want to show you what I mean when I say learning in the field, because practical exercises and practical learning, kind of the best way to find your way around is to get lost, is also a very real thing in many respects. So let me just show you what I mean. So if you're like me and you like to hike, you say, oh, look how nice this is. Now, let me tell you how easy it would be to get lost in here and be in a real bad situation. You got to learn to read your trail signs. You see that little black stripe between those two white ones? That's a trail that you go, because that's the one you're supposed to go on. That over there looks like a trail. And in other scenarios it might be, but it's not the one you're supposed to go on. It's just a rock. And if it were wet, you would go all the way downhill on your behind. It wouldn't be pretty. So we're going to use our practical skills, like learning how to identify trail markers and reading up beforehand on what way the trail is supposed to go and what you're supposed to look for, and put it to work. So if you want to be an outdoorsman, let me give you my eye view here, and I'm going to go real slow. Okay? We got to navigate, and we got to navigate while stuff is hitting us. Okay? There are going to be parts, no matter what you do, whether you're on foot, on skis, on the water, whatever, where it's going to get a little hairy, it's going to get a little hard to see, and you got to kind of be ready for it. So that's what we're working through here. Thank God it's not nearly as rocky like in this section of this particular trail as it was back there, at least in reference to what I'm doing. But it's a skill that you are going to have if you want to be an outdoorsman. And then look, things clear up a little. Now, having a plan for if everything else goes wrong. Now, as you can see down there, there's something that looks like roads, and I believe one of them is actually a train track. And so that means that something was going really, really bad. My bleep program is going to be to figure out a way to get down to there and follow those tracks to the nearest town, which, well, it conveniently happens to be over there, actually. So, you got to have a backup plan, and you got to look around to figure it out. So, I just got through a whole huge rocky section of this. Now I got a nice shaded area where it's mostly dirt. As far as that goes, and putting this all together on how to be an outdoorsman, it's finding when to give yourself a minute to take a break and catch your breath. Because if you don't do that out here, if you don't learn to stop, all right, you're going to be in trouble. You could be on the river, you could be on the trail, you could be on the slopes. When I was a little kid, we went skiing and stuff, and sometimes it wasn't a bad idea to just stop and fall on your butt. So when you see a moment where you can take advantage of it to kind of just reset, that's an absolute must if you really want to be an outdoorsman. Because the worst thing you can do is just keep going until you collapse and it's not of your own volition. Let's talk about learning about terrain a little bit and how you got to move through it. So here's a clear part of the path. It's kind of like a stairwell. It's also a nice scenario for you to either twist your ankle or go tumbling down in a really bad way. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our brains and we're going to be smart about it. And I'm going to look over here and scout, where can I do this in a way where I will not hurt myself? And, well, now I'm going to do it off camera because I'm going to need two hands. So one of the toughest things you have to do if you want to be an outdoorsman is you got to be willing to push yourself. I just got through some segments of this trail that were like, is that trail? Did I lose it? Because there wasn't a trail marker for a while and it was just kind of like a sideways rock face. Turns out it was, but it was really hard. And believe you me, when I get to like the shady side of a ridge or of a mountain or something and it's all wet, it gets a lot harder. And there's a part of me that's like, maybe I should just go back the way I came. And then there's a part of me that says, no, dog, you got this. Within reason. Within relative reason, like I still have a lot of water and food and other things and everything is intact and nothing feels totally horrifically off. But you got to be willing to push yourself a little bit. That's also a big part of becoming an outdoorsman, is going well beyond what you think is possible. So as an outdoorsman, I love it when I get a chance to move through a really nice covered section like this. When it's really hot, like it is most of the year here, this is an absolute godsend. But I'm still being smart, because when it's covered, that means what? It means it's wet. Okay, so it's going to be a little slipperier, especially if you're going down. And if you're not used to it, the angles that you are working at here are a heck of a lot steeper than what you are used to doing. And sometimes, you know, your foot is like totally sideways and it's a rock and all sorts of other stuff. So it's both beauty and a challenge, and as an outdoorsman, you have to embrace both of them. Oh, look, there's the trail. You want to be an outdoorsman? Get comfortable being sweaty, like really sweaty and gross, sweaty and dirty. All right, not sweaty like in the gym sweaty, like sweaty like you're going to be that way for hours or days, and there's going to be a lot of dirt and mud with it. Get used to being dirty, get used to the smell of dirt, get used to the smell of wood. All right, I've been in the gym, God knows how long, lifting weights, since at least my early teens. And You know, I'm used to sweating a lot, and I do sweat a lot anyway, but this is a whole nother level. Because you just stay sweaty. It's not like you sweat for an hour and then you go take a nice shower and go into air conditioning. No, not like that. You want to be an outdoorsman? Get used to being sweaty, get used to being dirty, and if you're like me, watch to make sure that you don't slip in the mud. Folks, I'm going to leave you with this last thought. You become an outdoorsman by stopping to be comfortable, or by making yourself uncomfortable. And it's 100% worth it. All of this right here, all of this gorgeousness, sorry, I'm slurring, I've hiked for like 6 hours now, is it. This is why you do it. It's all worth it. It's you and only you, as you were meant to be. Natural. Anyway, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.